I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Mina Kimes.
All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
How about that timing? That literally the inactives drops right now.
They're here. What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media with a Patriots pregame show here on the Pats Daily podcast, powered by PrizePicks and GameTime. We'll talk about them later. We have a PrizePicks lineup for you. We also have an update on the GameTime price to get in today's game. If you're in San Francisco or a Patriots fan and for some reason haven't bought tickets yet, do so with GameTime. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But first, we're going to react to the inactives in a little while, Taylor. There is some interesting, developments there. Someone who we'll talk about it. I don't know. Has it come out from the Patriots yet? I don't want to spoil it. It has come out from the Patriots. So Anthony Jennings is out, which is noteworthy. Vidarian Lowe also out, didn't make the trip. A couple other ones. So we'll get to all those in a second. But first, there's a quarterback report that we have to discuss that came out this morning, and that is from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. So there's been some buzz, as we know, Taylor, about Drake May impressing in practice, impressing teammates in practice. Alex Van Pelt told us the other day that he's looking really good. Gerard Mayo seems impressed with him. They're giving him 30% of the starters reps in practice. Mayo reiterated this week that he's getting those starters reps and he's also working his ass off on the scout team. There's been leaks, and I don't want to call them leaks because it's really been the defensive coaches telling us the other day that he's giving them headaches in practice. The rookie quarterback looks really good so far this season, at least in practice. And it felt like there was some momentum being gained as far as him becoming the Patriots starter. But NFL Network's Ian Rappaport dropped a giant glass of freezing cold water onto all of our hopes and dreams about Drake May this morning in a quick hit on NFL Network, and said that May is still a ways away from being on the field. He said that it looks like Jacoby Brissett is still their starter, at least for the foreseeable future, and that they haven't started a real ramp-up process for him. So, again, it felt like this coming Sunday, not today, but next week against the Dolphins, that sort of seemed like a nice soft landing spot for Drake May. A lot of people assumed that could be so, but it sounds like we're going to have a little bit more waiting to do until we get to the rookie. So, Taylor, your thoughts on the quarterback situation here as we head into week 4 against the San Francisco 49ers?
It's pretty much what we've already thought. Like, obviously, all the buzz that built up this week kind of had us leaning more towards, all right, maybe he is going to play.
Yep.
Because, we can only go on the information we have, and everything was sounding very positive. So Ian Rappaport, and I know that Phil Perry kind of pushed back on that, saying that teammates are saying they think that Drake May is ready. And that's always been part of the equation. We knew that at some point, the defensive guys, these are veterans. These are, players who've seen some of the best quarterbacks in the league. If they think that Drake May is competitive, then that's a very good sign. But it's not the deal breaker because he still has to pass Alex Van Pelt's. He has to check his boxes and do whatever he needs before he's comfortable putting him out there. So I still think that we're on the right trajectory, and it's been the same way pretty much, since the summer, where Drake May is doing what he needs to do. He's learning at a very good pace, and everyone's excited. But at the end of the day, he needs to make sure that the quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt isn't the quarterback's coach, but that is his role, as he is mentoring Drake May. So he still needs to say, you know what, I'm comfortable with this because he's worked around quarterbacks. He's played quarterback at the NFL level. He has enough experience that I'm willing to sit back. And, the play caller, Alex Van Pelt, TBD still, of course. And, but in this developmental process, I'm willing to wait and let us be patient because Jacoby Brissett still isn't losing you games. That's the bottom line here. Like, right. If the defense starts playing the way that we expected them to, which they haven't the past 2 weeks, if the run game, they're feeding Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson, but it's not working, and then Jacoby Brissett has to maybe take on some more, that won't be fair. But those are the kind of things where, you start to say, okay, we need someone to maybe help us out because our other guys are doing what they need to do, and the quarterback is, not holding up his end of the bargain. So it's really the same thing. I feel like it's hard to talk about these things because it feels like the same conversation all the time. And I'm really not breaking any news here, but I think that until it gets to the point that Jacoby is actively becoming a deterrent for them, and he's like throwing turnovers or, there's touchdowns he's not getting to. We know he's missing big play opportunities, but he's also making plays he shouldn't, which I feel like also slides under the radar. It's like there's 2 or 3 that he should make, but also there's third downs that he's converting where you really can't expect any quarterback to convert in those situations just on paper. So I still want to see Drake May as much as anybody else, But considering he is the guy that you want to be the face of your franchise, I am so okay with sacrificing short-term winning edges for his long-term development. If Alex Van Pelt says he's doing a lot of good things, he's so close, but I just don't feel confident putting him out there right now.
So while I mostly agree with you, I think that that's sort of the sane and more, I guess, reasonable lens to look through it at right now. In that, let's not rush this thing, yeah, right, and let's not get ourselves carried away. But at the same time, like it really felt like there was true momentum this week, right? The reporting that came out, the way the coaches talked about May, that he's moving starting caliber defenders on the Patriots defense with his eyes and making jaw-dropping plays for defenders to kind of feel like they needed to speak out about in this reporting from Phil Perry, that the teammates are, seem like Drake May is ready to go. And so I get it. I think
like teammates aren't watching Drake May's footwork, like they're not studying his mechanics. And again, I don't want to like try to backtrack on what we said all summer, where the teammates are going to at some point be like, oh, we need to put the young kid in.
Right.
But I also think there's a level of like, most of the guys on this defense saw what happened to Mac Jones. It's not apples to oranges, where obviously Drake May is much more physically talented than was Mac Jones. We all know that it's not the same thing, but the bottom line is they saw what happened when they put a young quarterback in a disadvantageous position. So I do think, we're talking weeks. It's not like he's sitting the whole year. We all know that Drake May is going to play this year. That's the bottom line. I don't think teammates are going to be really upset with the fact that Jacoby Brissett is a starter, because like he's a captain. They have a lot of respect for Jacoby as well. And I'm sure there's some frustration about him not hitting those big plays and not throwing the ball downfield and all that. But we've seen they're trying to do that. Jacoby needs to take advantage. But still, I don't think we're at the point where the team or the defense is going to be like, what the hell are we doing here? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think there are some fine lines that we need to address, because as annoying as this conversation is, at least for me, I understand there's nuance to it, and I understand people wanting to see him out there. And I don't want to make them feel like they're crazy or anything. It's just you cannot sacrifice his development and the fundamental mechanics and the mistakes that we saw him make against the Jets. Like, he's not a finished product, and he won't be when he goes out there, but there's still some fine tuning, and the more time he can get to work those things out, the better. Again, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. And I think I mostly agree with that point. And I think there was a lot of excitement this week, though, about, again, what was coming out of practice and the fact that the offensive line is seemingly getting healthier. Vidarian Lowe is also inactive today, which we'll get to, but Sidy Sow comes back. Caden Wallace is active, so he might have to, come in at left tackle at some point, but they trust him enough to be healthy, to be a backup, more time, more rest, etc. You could put him at right tackle, Mike Onwenu inside. And it felt like the pieces were starting to come into place, where offensive line gets healthy, May looks pretty good. You don't know what's going to happen today against San Francisco, right? They could get their doors blown off and Jacoby could look bad. And okay, now that's some more evidence to give you, okay, maybe we do put him in week 5. And so there's a lot of pieces that were finally coming together, which is why I kind of call it the wet blanket, some cold water rather, splashed on the Drake May scenario coming in week 5. And unfortunately for Patriots fans and for media, I think it would be fun to kind of get this thing going. And I agree they shouldn't rush it, but it feels like it's coming. It sounds like it's coming. And so to get that report this morning, I guess disappointing all around, but we may have to wait a little longer for the quarterback. Another piece to that, like I said, the pieces coming into play. Another report from Ian Rappaport this morning, Kendrick Bourne set to return to practice this week, coming off the torn ACL from last year. We saw Kendrick Bourne at the facility the other day. He seemed like he was in good spirits. He was, he works on the lower field. He's getting his knee right. It sounds like he's going to be cleared. Out 4 weeks, again, with the torn ACL on PUP. There's a chance he gets activated this week, or at least they start ramping up his practice window. They open that up. So, again, with pieces coming into place, Patriots could get one of their pretty good wide receivers back in Kendrick Bourne. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts, KB? What does he add?
So I think that the biggest thing is, as much as we like KJ Osborne this preseason and the summer, and the connection he seemed to have with Jacoby Brissett, we haven't really seen that, to be honest. And I thought that was going to be a big part of this passing attack, was going to be KJ Osborne, Hunter Henry, and maybe the younger guys kind of filling in, but really Jacoby leaning towards those veteran guys. Osborne hasn't really given you much in the passing game, unfortunately. He's been doing dirty work as a run blocker, and you obviously respect him for that. And maybe he can still fill that early down run, situation role, because you probably don't want Kendrick Bourne to necessarily have to be in those situations a ton, because he is still coming back. But in terms of the actual passing game, this could give you maybe 3 potentially legitimate options. Obviously, none of them are game breakers, but this needs to be an offense because they don't have an alpha that is better than the sum of its parts, where you have Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, and Kendrick Bourne all being viable options on any given play, so that when you look up, when it's the third quarter, it's like this guy has 5 targets, this guy has 5, this guy has 4, at least something that defense can't key in on who exactly you're going after. I think Kendrick Bourne, even if he's not as explosive and he's not the yards after catch threat, or maybe doesn't have quite the juice vertically that he used to, I still think he's got great ball skills. I think he's a crafty route runner, and I think he's just an overall good football player, bottom line. And KJ Osborne is that, but I think we all know he's usually a wide receiver 4, whereas Kendrick Bourne is like a high-end wide receiver 3, maybe like a solid wide receiver 2. You don't want him being the guy, but he can be a very good complementary piece. Unfortunately, again, this Patriots offense isn't one that has a stud. It has a lot of complementary pieces. So you need to, with Jordan Love's whole thing with not having a true number 1 is, that works, but only if you're actually spreading the ball around. So you hope that ideally maybe KB gives you a little bit more verticality in terms of competitiveness at the catch point, where Tyquan Thornton doesn't really give you that. He gives you the speed, but you're not thinking, okay, if it's in his area, he's going to catch it. You're thinking, I hope he draws a flag, or I hope he has separation. You're not really expecting him to get any contested grabs. So I think that's what KB gives you. And also the energy, man. I
was just going to say, it gives you hope on offense. It gives you something to hold on to.
It's that leadership, and that, again, just the emotion that he brings on the field is something that I think, especially as a veteran, where he already has that established confidence. I know Polk has that in a degree. Demario Douglas does as well. But when KB's on the field, we all know it just feels different. So
definitely, that
on top of just the things he brings as being a really well-rounded player, I think those are definitely going to be big positives. And it'll be interesting to see if they end up keeping, what is it going to be, 7 receivers?
7, I think. Yeah.
I think they end up doing that because it feels like they really do like Kayshon Boutte, and he's the one guy that you would expect to really be on the outside looking in if they were to cut somebody.
Right. Boutte active today as well. So they have 7 receivers, and they have 7 of them active on the roster today, along with Javon Baker. So we'll get into all that stuff in just a moment. We'll talk about PrizePicks right now. But first, just quickly on the KB thing too. I'm just going to second that. Someone who's a leader, someone who brings energy at practice. It feels like he gives them a little bit more of an edge, right? This isn't just the, pros versus Joes, their cornerbacks against our, wide receivers, right? He adds a really good player, but he also adds again, just a feel in the room, someone who wanted to be a captain. He made that known. And now I feel like it was probably tough for him to get over that hump, not being on the field and kind of being in the locker room, but not being a part of the offseason program or training camp really. But now he comes back. And I'm excited for him. He's somebody who likes being a Patriot, re-signed here for a reason. So now he gets himself back on the field. So it'll be exciting to see. Again, Ian Rappaport saying that Kendrick Bourne set to return to practice this week for the Patriots. All right, Taylor, let's talk about our friends over at PrizePicks, because it's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because unlike the other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Myself and Taylor have our Patriots daily PrizePicks lineup locked in right now. I tweeted it out earlier, but if you're watching us right now, I am going with Demario Douglas to have more than 33.5 receiving yards today. I think they got him locked into the lineup last week. I think they want to get him involved. They want to get him the ball quickly. They want to get him the ball often. They want him to be a part of that offense moving forward. So again, they got it done last week. I think they try and do the same this week. So I'm taking Pop to have more than 33.5 receiving yards. Taylor has Brandon Ayuk to have less than, I believe it's 22.5 yards on his longest reception. We tried it a couple weeks ago, Taylor. You didn't get it that week, but you hit it last week with Garrett Wilson against Gonzo. So why are you taking Ayuk to have less than 22.5 yards on his longest reception today?
Because Christian Gonzalez has looked really good and Brandon Ayuk has not, frankly. We talked to Ted Nguyen of The Athletic, who covers the 49ers, and he mentioned that the trust really isn't there right now with Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk because he missed the entire offseason program while holding out and in. I think it was a combination of those. So, I would hope this isn't the week that he pops off. Sometimes that happens, like Tyler Conklin having a career game every time he goes against the Patriots. But Christian Gonzalez, again, has been very solid. There's been back and forth. These are talented receivers, but I think he gets it done.
Love it. All right. That's our PrizePicks lineup, like I said, for our Pat's Daily Show today. So head over there, download the PrizePicks app, download it, and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Again, you can head over to my Twitter. We did a walking PrizePicks video, keeping with the trends. We're hip just like everybody else on social, and so we hit that. So hopefully you guys follow along, make the picks, and hit it with us too. All right, Taylor, let's get into the Patriots inactives today against the 49ers. 6 players inactive. Offensive tackle Vidarian Lowe, outside linebacker Anthony Jennings, tight end Jaheim Bell, guard Michael Jordan, defensive end Jamari Croma, and quarterback Joe Milton is inactive as well. He's the emergency third quarterback. What are your immediate thoughts on the 6 guys that aren't playing for the Patriots today?
Vidarian Lowe, we already expected,
Yeah.
and we kind of discussed it. Like, even at practice, I think it's going to be a situation where Demontre Jacobs is the starter.
Mm-hmm.
And he did put some good things on tape last week. There were some bad. He gave up the sack that ended the game where the defender kind of got inside on him, and he gave up some pressure in the pocket. You don't want to see that. But he is long. He's got strong hands. There were several times you saw his punch disrupted the guy who was going across from him. You know, finishing wasn't always great. Again, I don't expect it's going to be perfect, and I don't think anybody should. He's the full string left tackle. But I think it's going to be like a week 1 situation where when Chuk struggled, Vidarian Lowe came in even though he wasn't really healthy. I think it's going to be the same thing where if Demontre Jacobs really does have a hard time, then Caden Wallace goes in. Now, that said, I think that based on what we saw last week, like Caden Wallace still has a ways to go, so that's not a great situation.
Right.
But again, we didn't expect Vidarian Lowe to be out there. I think that's what happens at left tackle. The big blow, though, is Anthony Jennings, who we expected to play. Really, all signs pointed to him being active this week. He's one of their best run defenders. You could argue he's their best run defender. Like him and Devon Godchaux, in terms of their impact, are very similar there. That worries me because now I'm looking at the depth chart, the outside linebacker spot. So the Patriots have their 2 edge defenders. Usually they'll have a hybrid where it's either, Keon White or Dietrich Wise as those guys who can, play defensive end or stand up outside guy or, hand in the defensive end, whatever. Or it's usually someone like Jelani Tavai on the other side. Their best front is a 5-man front where they have Jelani Tavai on one edge and Anthony Jennings on the other. This week, that may have to be either Keon White, and Keon White has been very good as an edge defender when he's like standing up, similar to what he did in college. That could be solid, but then I think it means that Joshua Uche is inevitably going to have a larger role in the run defense. That worries me because that's not what his game is. We all know that. They can kind of they can get around that a little bit by having Uche attack. So really have him kind of blitz and split inside and try to penetrate rather than trying to hold his ground where Anthony Jennings can do both. I think you got to make sure you're scheming in a way that puts Uche in advantageous positions if you do use him on early downs. But I cannot emphasize enough, especially for a team like the 49ers where they want to get outside the tackles, and Anthony Jennings doesn't give you many opportunities to do that. That's going to be one that really worries me. And honestly, it does affect my feeling on how effective they can be stopping this rushing attack.
Yeah, for sure. Tough blow. Obviously, Anthony Jennings out with a shoulder injury. That's why he was limited this week with the shoulder. Again, like you said, signs pretty much pointed to him being out there. He was a limited participant all week. I don't believe he missed him. He might have missed Monday's practice, but that was sort of a lighter day. It was their extra day. But he was out there this week. So again, shocker there. And the other one too, Jaheim Bell is a healthy scratch for the first time. He's the Patriots' 3rd tight end. And this is the first time he's been scratched. He hasn't played much on offense and he hasn't looked great. The Patriots.
He's played literally one snap.
One snap. And the Patriots elevated tight end Mitchell Wilcox from the practice squad yesterday. We'll get into some of those other moves they made yesterday in a minute after we talk about the Niners inactives. But looking like practice squad tight end Mitchell Wilcox coming up to serve as that 3rd tight end tells me they're going to try and run the football today, even more so than they have in the first 3 weeks. Again, Ramondre only had 6 carries last week. They weren't able to kind of establish it and get it done there. But 3 tight ends, maybe we'll get some 13 personnel out there. They like to use those heavy packages with an extra offensive lineman. Offensive line depth is obviously being tested right now with Vidarian Lowe out, Michael Jordan out. And so they call up Mitchell Wilcox and Jaheim Bell is out of the lineup. Any more thoughts on the tight ends before we move on to the 49ers inactives?
Yeah, when Wilcox, when Wilcox
like
was
Mitchell Wilcox.
Mitchell Wilcox. When Mitchell Wilcox was activated, it felt like them saying, "Oh, we're going to run the hell out of the ball."
Yeah,
is because I don't think any of us that we were there this summer. I don't want to be mean. You know how I feel about
it. Wasn't great. Mitchell Wilcox was not great.
Was not a great.
I'll say it so you don't have to.
Right, but he's a veteran. Austin Hooper gave him a ton of credit for his versatility. I think maybe we'll see him in like a fullback role, but I think that's mostly been Hunter Henry. So I don't want to over speculate because I could kind of go all kinds of ways with that. But I mean, I think just Jaheim Bell, we saw it this summer. He didn't really seem like someone who was very pro ready. Like a lot of the success he had as a pass catcher was like in the flats, which is pretty much like if you're not making those catches in the flats, then we have a bigger issue to discuss. And as a run blocker, he showed some flashes when he was on the move and using at the second level, but in line, he had some struggles. So I think this is kind of reminds me of a Javon Baker situation when he was inactive, where it's just, this is a young guy. Right. He was a project. We all knew he was a project. Obviously, you hope that the team can find some ways to get them involved. And if they had to, they probably would. But that's not really the situation. So I just think that maybe he's not showing quite enough in practice. But, he's got plenty of time. He's a young guy. He was picked in the 7th round for a reason. Got to give him some time to learn the game, get up to speed, and then we'll see what he can become.
For sure. All right, and on the 49ers side, wide receiver Ronnie Bell, cornerback Darrell Luter, safety Talona Hufanga. Did I say that right?
Hufanga, yeah.
Yep, and guard Ben Barch, and then Josh Dobbs is their emergency third quarterback today. So nothing too shocking on the inactive side, but it does tell us that Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, who were questionable this week, George Kittle hurt this week, Brock Purdy hurt this week. All those guys are back in the game. Obviously missing Christian McCaffrey still, but they're loading themselves back up on offense, which is promising. So what do you make of that? And then what do you make against the matchup in general before we get into our game time read and then talk about one more thing on the Patriots roster moves?
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
This is already a game that I thought they needed every type of advantage they could get. And now you're talking about 3 of the best players at their respective positions. Even if they're banged up or whatever, those are still really, really talented players. So, I mean, I think it just makes this game even more difficult. I didn't think that the Patriots were going to win. When I did the preview with Ted Nguyen, I said that I was going to pick with my heart, not my head. But then I was like, nah, my heart isn't even saying that the Patriots are going to win this. My heart's saying that they're going to be competitive. I still hope they are. I think if they commit to the run game, that's one of the only advantages I think the Patriots really do have here, especially now that we know what the inactives are. I think if they can run the ball effectively, they should be able to control the pace of this game a little more. But that said, man, this is a loaded 49er squad. They're experienced. They're battle-tested.
Yep.
There's not a lot of games on the schedule that we already assumed that they probably weren't going to win. I remember the Seahawks. I was saying they were going to be a tough route that people thought, nobody wanted to listen today. But Geno Smith is that boy. But yeah, this Niner squad, they're kind of like if the Rams were at full strength, where you're like, this is just, they have so much experience, right? Great coaching. It's just not really fair to expect a team with new coaches and they're still trying to figure out themselves to win this game. I just want to see the players that you expect to be solid. I want to see that. Like, I want to see Jacoby take advantage of opportunities. I want to see Alex Van Pelt do better as a play caller and sequence things better to keep the 49ers off guard and capitalize on their weaknesses. But like realistically, with those guys that are healthy or playing at least for the 49ers,
right?
I don't know how you expect to win in this situation. You just want to make sure that this is not a situation where they get blown out. Because again, like against the Jets and the Seahawks, like these are really talented teams. Yeah. If you lose as a rebuilding team, a rational fan should go, "Hey, at least we stuck in it." That's
put some good stuff on tape, right? Exactly.
But you can't have a Jet situation where they're getting their doors blown off, and you're like, "This is unwatchable."
Right. We went into the season knowing the talent gap between the Patriots and a lot of their opponents was significant. Now they get a couple of those guys back now that they're healthier. So it's going to be challenging. But like you said, you don't want to get your doors blown off. You don't want less than 100 passing yards. You don't want to be missing tackles all over the field. It's okay. I don't want to say it's okay if you lose because realistically it's not. And you go into these games to win. But 2025 team, rebuilding, we're back on those sort of talking points. But it's the truth. And so go out there, show that you're competitive, keep it close against a really good team, and there may be some promising things to take away from this one. So we're going to wrap this show up in a minute. But first, let's talk about our friends at GameTime, because right now, if you head over to the GameTime app and you're in San Francisco, which a lot of you may be, if you took the trip out there, haven't got your tickets yet, you can head over to GameTime right now and get in the doors at Levi Stadium for as low as $71 right now. You can do it through the GameTime Picks feature now. On GameTime, it filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals on the great seats that they have, so you don't have to waste your time searching through those thousands of tickets. GameTime will help you, and they'll help you do it cheaper and easier with their app. They have super deals. They have awesome deals. They have great deals. It's great. You can also look at your seat view on the app, so if you're some of the other ticketing apps, you can look and you can see where you are in like the bowl or whatever, but you can't see it through the lens, but you can do so with the GameTime app. That's why we love it, and that's why we use it here at CLNS. So head over to GameTime right now. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the GameTime app. Download it. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. What time is it, Taylor?
Game time.
Good work. I saw you smirking. I saw you were ready for it there.
I'm
That's
so
good
excited.
stuff.
It's my favorite part.
It is. We work together on these ad reads here, Taylor. And again, if you're in San Fran, if you live out there, if you traveled out for the game and you haven't bought tickets yet, $71 entry price right now on GameTime. So not that bad. You got about an hour and 5 minutes.
The cheapest ticket you're going to find for a Niners game, to be
Seriously.
honest.
Yeah. So an hour and a half until kickoff. So if you're around, go try and do it. Use code CLNS on the app. All right, Taylor. One more thing I wanted to hit on before we get out of here is a roster move the Patriots made yesterday. Cornerback Alex Austin hurt his ankle. I don't believe he played last week and then was out this week. Or did he?
He hurt his
he
his
hurt it
ankle
in the
last
Jets.
week.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm losing my mind.
Okay.
The 10-day gap is throwing me off.
These are such weird weeks. I don't think people understand how odd it is for us, like creatures of habit, to be in the situation so early. Like, I'm still recovering.
Austin hurts his ankle on Thursday. Doesn't play the weekend because they didn't have a game that weekend. That's where my head was at. But he gets put on injured reserve yesterday, and the Patriots signed cornerback Isaiah Bolden to their 53-man roster from the practice squad, a bigger corner than Austin, someone who can play really all around the field in the back end on that secondary, and also may bring a kick return element too, which I'm excited about. So, Taylor, what are your thoughts on Isaiah Bolden essentially taking over for Alex Austin after heading on injured reserve?
One, I'd love to see him get some kick return reps for real.
Too.
It's so odd to me that we've barely seen him in that capacity when he had like a historic season his last year at Jackson State. But in terms of his size, that's the biggest thing for me. This cornerback room was really lacking in that department, where Marco Wilson is tallish and he's longish, but he's a lighter guy. And I think obviously you saw downfield, just he got really skittish. Alex Austin, really, to be fair, his only bad play, like in the coverage reps he had and everything else, he didn't stand out in a bad way. There were just no balls that went his way. But the one that did, the second he touched the field for the first time this season, he gets a bubble screen thrown on, or a smoke screen thrown on him, and he misses a tackle, and it's a touchdown. But Bolden, as a special teams ace, as a guy who's got size, speed, length, and all that, I would hope that he would be a little more consistent in that area, and also just not quite as afraid when teams target him deep. Now, he was on the practice squad for a reason. I think we need to make sure we temper our expectations. Like, this is not going to be his breakout game, most likely, but it's a step in the right direction. It's great to see him actually on the active roster because he has so much talent and potential. But I just don't want to get people's hopes too high on him because he's got a lot of learning to do. But still a really exciting player, and he's the only guy I think they have now other than Christian Gonzalez, who's 6 feet, I'm pretty sure.
Right. I think that's what makes it interesting, because we talk about how they're going to match up against these 49ers. And, do they use Christian Gonzalez?
Marco's also 6 feet. I'm sorry. Marco's 6 feet. But literally that's it.
Right. But do they use Christian Gonzalez to shadow Brandon Ayuk and use kind of the rest of their bunch against everybody else? Or do they kind of flip things around? If they do that, you have Isaiah Bolden, who is a taller guy, who is a bigger body, can take on a guy like Juwan Jennings, who had a monster game last week. So we'll see what happens. But Bolden active, along with Marco Wilson as well, with the injury to Alex Austin. So they're bringing in a 2-for-1 there. Hopefully I would like to see some reps from Bolden, not only on special teams, but defense as well. Like you said, don't get your hopes too high for this guy. But I've always liked him, a big athletic player, really fast, kind of a specimen. So he can do it all. So we'll see what happens there. But unfortunately, Alex Austin goes to injured reserve with that ankle injury. Again, a quick injury note. We don't even really need to go too far into it. But Mike Reese reported this morning, too, that O'Shane Ximenez tore his ACL. So it's going to be a season ender for him, which is too bad because he had a good camp. Looked like he could add something there off the edge from them. But I believe that's going to do it for us, Taylor. We're about an hour until kickoff in the Bay Area. So any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up and go watch the game and come back later to do a postgame show?
Temper your expectations.
Yeah.
That's a big theme in this game, is like you have to understand you're kind of running into a buzzsaw right now. But again, you are allowed to expect Alex Van Pelt to lean into the run and mix things up a little better. Again, the whole establish the run point is not just to get to a certain threshold. It's the fact that you were able to manage the game well enough that you earned the right to run the ball a lot. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Jacoby Brissett has to show something. I cannot do another week of the Jacoby Brissett isn't doing anything. And people aren't totally wrong. I think that the contributions he has made have been underrated, but he's got to start connecting downfield. He's got to take advantage of these downfield windows. I feel like I keep saying it. I feel like a broken record, but that really is what it is, because otherwise fans are just going to keep pleading for Drake May, and they're going to be right to a degree because it is hard to watch a quarterback who can't get the ball downfield, just like last year, even though he isn't turning it over. And defensively, tackle, and just make sure that you keep Brock Purdy in the pocket. You cannot let this guy run and extend plays, especially in critical moments, because I just don't think your offense is going to be able to handle you just having these long, sustained drives. The defense is tired. The offense is on the sideline. The sides that where their strengths are, the run game, the defense need to play well to give them a shot at this game. But again, I don't think they're going to win. But
yeah, I like the way you put it, though. Temper your expectations on the result of the game, but it's okay to expect improvement, and it's okay to be like, let's not settle for missed tackles and 3 points again and less than 100 yards passing. Like, there's more to this, and there's more to be had on this team for sure. But talent gap, it's tough to expect a win. But let's see those building blocks come out here, continue to grow, see some improvement. And if you don't, Drake May is going to probably see the field rather quickly. But until we see that, it's looking like Jacoby Brissett, and it's looking like the Patriots are going to kick this thing off in less than an hour from Santa Clara. So that's going to do it for our pregame show here on Patriots Daily. Myself, Tayler, and John Zannis will be back after the game for our Patriots postgame show. And then we'll have you covered throughout the game as well on Twitter, and we'll have some written stuff on the website as well coming up tonight into tomorrow. And all that good stuff. So until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. We'll see you after the game. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you next time. Peace out, everyone.